any state or federal education assistance. Karina Haythorpe is the federal president of the Australian Education Union, and she says hundreds of thousands of students with disabilities aren't being properly funded.
Over 250,000 of our students who have an identified disability or learning difficulty are not receiving funded support from the federal and state governments, and I think that that's an absolute shame. The reality is that our schools work very hard to make sure that they can cater for these students. We conducted a survey of our principals, and 87% of principals told us that they actually had to shift funds from other areas of the budget to put in programs in place to make sure that these students can access education and be supported at school. So it places significant pressure on schools. Schools put in place programs such as learning aids in the classroom, additional classroom support with specialist teachers, and occupational therapy or speech pathology. These are the things that can really assist a child to engage with their learning. But when schools don't have the funds and they have to shift funds from other budget, it places a significant pressure on what can actually be achieved. Our students have been waiting for many years now for promised funds for disability. 2015, the Coalition Government said that they would put funds into our schools. We've been waiting year after year after year. Now, with this new funding proposal, what we don't see is an additional allocation of money for these kids. We need to make sure that our schools are funded properly. When we have 250,000 students missing out on funded support, not only does it place pressure on this child and their families, pressure on the school, but it means that these children cannot participate fully and be successful beyond school. The Minister's funding plan, I just want to point out, is going to deliver a $3 billion cut to education over the next 2 years. So our question is, now that you have the data, now that you've said that this is reliable, how are you going to fund these children and their education? When you have a child with a learning difficulty or a disability, it does add to the complexity of the classroom. Now, many of these children are in the public school system where they're in larger classes, and so for a teacher to have one-on-one support or intervention programs at hand to assist the child to fully engage in their school, that's actually critical, because it not only means that the child can have success with their learning, but it means that the overall complexity of the classroom is more settled. It's very important that we engage our parents and our school communities as part of this fight. We are trying to educate people about the fact that the new funding model is nothing but a con. It actually hides significant cuts. The disability funding in particular is buried in this model. So we need parents now to stand up with us and to ask the crossbenchers in the Senate to block the legislation that will bring these cuts in.
The Australian